the first time we met Walt. It was to demonstrate some of the new material we had in mind for the Horsemasters. We only had a few days to prepare for the meeting, so Dick and I worked all weekend long. Only one song was required, but we really wanted the gig, so we wrote 3. We wrote a fast song, a medium song, and a ballad, hoping that one of them would fit the bill. We got to the studio and found Jimmy Johnson in his office. When he mentioned how important it was that Walt liked the new song, he seemed nervous. Walt Disney? Were we actually going to perform for the man himself? As we left Jimmy's office, he said, "Guys, just remember, Walt doesn't like to be called Mr. Disney." Dick and I decided not to call him anything at all. Walt's office suite was the last door on the right, up on the 3rd floor of the animation building, but there was no sign on the door. It wasn't needed. At the periphery of our site was a ceiling-high cabinet of trophies, a built-in chrome kitchen and bar, soft beige curtains, and an array of sun-filled windows. At the center of our focus was a man in his late 50s, wearing an orange cardigan golf sweater. He was comfortably seated behind not a desk, but a low black lacquered table, upon which were piled an assortment of scripts, photographs, and animation cells. I thought, my God, he looks just like him. Jimmy introduced us. Walt stood, and Dick and I took turns shaking his hand. He said, "Yes, Sherman brothers. You are really brothers, aren't you?" I suppose he was trying to put us at ease. Walt continued, "In vaudeville, most brother acts weren't really related, you know." I responded, "Well, we really are, Mr. Disney. Brothers, I mean." I was angry with myself for having called him Mr. Disney. Abruptly, Walt's smile disappeared. Sit down. I want to tell you about this thing." He tapped loudly on his desk with 2 fingers while he composed his thoughts. Then he began. "Yes, these kids, Sharon and Susan, have never met each other until this summer at camp. Their parents split up when the girls were babies, each parent taking one child to raise. They lived on opposite coasts, not knowing they each had an identical twin, you see." We didn't see. What the hell was he talking about? Where were the English Horsemasters? Where was Annette? And where were our songs supposed to go? Who was going to break in and tell Mr. Disney he was talking about the wrong picture? We looked with hope toward Jimmy. His face had turned a shocking red. Finally, I took the bit into my mouth. "Mr. Disney, we wrote a song for Annette Funicello, for the Horsemasters." Walt said, mostly to himself, "Why the hell didn't you stop me?" He got up from his chair and walked toward a far door. "Come on, let's hear what you got." It felt as though we were being led to a firing squad. Walt stood staring out a window with his back to us. There was a piano against the wall. Dick sat down with his back to Walt and launched into the first of our 3 songs. Dick contorted his neck, trying to sing, at least in profile, to Walt. The 10 seconds during which Walt considered Strummon's song seemed to last forever. Not looking at us, but toward Jimmy, he spoke in an offhand manner. "Yes, that'll work. That'll work." That's all he could say. It would have been nice if he were a little more complimentary. After all, we had slaved all weekend on that number. Walt then told Tommy Wilk to give us a script of a film called We Belong Together, the working title of what was to become The Parent Trap. "Since I spent all that time telling you about this one," Walt said, "why don't you try to write a title song for it?" Jimmy grabbed our elbows and pressed us toward the exit door. He said, "Thanks, Walt." We departed with an over-the-shoulder, "Nice to have met you, sir." Walt simulated a salute and grunted, "So long," not even looking up from the open script on his desk. Dick and I were perplexed. We didn't even get to play the other 2 songs we'd prepared. Jimmy said nothing until we were all safely back on his turf, a whole building away. "Guys, you were fantastic. I mean it. Fabulous. I just can't believe how great it went. This calls for a celebration." Dick and I weren't so sure, but Jimmy allayed our doubts. "Hey, Sherman brothers, do you know what you've got? You've got a song in the Horsemasters and a title song assignment on the Haley Mills feature." Jimmy jumped up and drove an invisible golf ball off a tee with an imaginary golf club. "All you've got to do now is come through.